So I've been reading, I finished reading Between the World and Me by ta-nehisi Coates. Um, and I wanted to share some thoughts I had about one quote that really stuck out to me, which was race is the child of racism, not the father. And I was thinking about it, I really actually agree and resonate with this quote. Um, so the reason I'm thinking about it, I'm writing an essay, and one of the essay prompts, or one of the parts of the prompts that says, what is race? So I was like, okay, well, ta-nehisi Coates says it's the child of racism, and I agree with that. So I'm like, okay, how can race be the child of racism? Because you need to have race to have racism, right? So let's just define race. So, okay, I think you can define race by like your physical features, like your skin color, your eye shape, your um, hair texture, all that kind of stuff, where you're from. That can obviously be factored in to be your race and definition of race. But I want to think about it on more of like a psychological or like a societal level. So it's like, okay, well, race is what we use to divide up people to figure out who's has more power and stuff like that. I think that's good, and obviously that definition can be expanded on. But what I really like is race is the child of racism. And at first it's like, okay, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. How can you have racism without race? So when I was trying to understand what he meant by this quote and explain it to myself, how I did that was I was thinking about it, okay, well, for it to be true, you need to have racism without race. So I was thinking about how that can be true. So I was thinking about, okay, well, I kind of think of like the start of race and racism is not obviously like discrimination, the start of discrimination, obviously been around for a lot longer. But I think about, okay, when Columbus and them pulled up, um, so you have race and you have racism. So race is a child of racism. So you need racism first. So how I was thinking about it was that it's really not racism, it's more discrimination. So let's just think about it as discrimination. So Columbus put up, they're like, they see the indigenous people, the Native Americans, they're like, oh, well, we're better than you guys, right? And looking back on it, that's racism. But at the time, there was no race, right? So we're better than you guys. Um, we deserve this land, all that, blah blah blah. And for me, that looks like discrimination off rip. It's not really racism; it's more of discrimination. So when you have that discrimination, from there, it's like, okay, well, we kind of need to justify this, right? We can't just like discriminate with no bounds or no base, right? So from that discrimination, I think that's when race came out of it. So it's like, okay, we're better than you, so you guys are gonna be colored, we're gonna be white. So that makes us better because it's white is better than colored. So now that's where you see racism, right? But I think that um yeah, I mean I hope that makes sense. I think it's like the racism came first as a form of discrimination, right, before race. And then the race came to justify the discrimination, and now we look at that as racism, which makes sense. But I'm just saying that when race is a child of racism, it's like, okay, racism is that discrimination that was there. So then, because of that discrimination, came race as a means to justify it or to give it some kind of purpose or some bounds. Um, so I don't know. I just wanted to share those thoughts I had about that quote. I thought it was an interesting quote. Have a good rest of your day.